Welcome to our very first CI Alumni webinar. It is a historical moment for us. We're doing for the very first time this webinar in collaboration with the CI Alumni Association Board. My name is Solomon Diaz. I'm the Director of Alumni and International Relations here at Chadwick International. First of all, I want to thank everyone who made this event possible, everyone who's joining us, either on live broadcast, and those who will be joining, of course, watching this event later on. I want to thank Mr. Sean Fordy for helping me to set up this event today. He's our Village School Tech Integration Guru, so thank you. And also Mr. Daniel Koo, class of 2016, who helped me to coordinate today's webinar. Thank you. I'd like to thank, of course, our keynote speaker, Mr. Q Lee, who will be introduced later on. And also, of course, the 4 alumni who accepted the invitation to be a panelist today. You are truly Chadwickans forever. So thank you. We appreciate everyone who helped us also promoting this event here in Korea and also in the US. The session, as I mentioned, is being live streamed on YouTube. So thank you for joining us, those of you watching on YouTube. It is our also inauguration of our CI Alumni YouTube channel. So thank you for joining in this very special event. It will be, of course, as I said, available on our CI Alumni YouTube channel, and many of you will be also joining this live discussion with questions, and you can always pose a comment or a question on the chat. We have prepared a very exciting discussion chat today, but before we get started, I'd like to ask Mr. Hill, our head of school, for his opening remarks. Mr. Hill, please.
Well, so welcome everybody, and thank you particularly to Mr. Lee for sharing your expertise and experience and insight and perspective with us, and also, of course, our alumni panelists and Dr. Diaz. I think back to our initial year of 2010, where we were just looking to the future.
Okay, I think
we have graduates from college, and now we're able to do what we always dreamed of, which is to have this be a lifelong opportunity for learning and sharing from each other. And so, thank you. As we've said before, Chadwick is not a pre-K through 12 school; it is a pre-K through life school, and we.
It seems that we're having some connection issues here. Mr. Hill, please go ahead.
Okay, so we're fortunate between Chadwick International and Chadwick School, and soon to be Chadwick Eco Park in Vietnam. We have thousands of alumni around the world in a variety of fields and a variety of life situations, and the ability to learn from each other, to share with each other, to help each other out, I think is one of the great strengths of the school. So our relationship with our students does not end when they receive a diploma and go off to college. It hopefully continues for a lifetime. So today really is a historic event, because now we have students who have graduated from college, who have gone on to careers, and are now, lending a hand back, handing a hand back to other students and to other alumni. And that is what we always dreamed of. And again, I want to thank Mr. Lee as well for giving his perspective and expertise, because we intend to have an alumni network, a network of alumni parents, of former teachers, everybody who's been associated with or connected to the school in any way, because we can all help each other. And that's how we benefit from this incredible relationship that we form at Chadwick. So with that, again, I'd like to thank everyone who's participating, whether you be a panelist, whether Mr. Lee, Mr. Diaz for facilitating this, or the people who are watching it and are participating through that means. This is a big step forward for our school, and I hope that we will continue to be able to develop programs like this to help our alumni throughout their lives. So with that, I hand it back to you, Dr. Diaz. And again, thank you, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. I really appreciate. I know how busy you are, and thank you for taking the time to officially open this webinar. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay.
So now we go on. The program of our webinar today will be divided into two parts, and I would like to explain a little bit the logistics of today's webinar. So the first portion is a keynote speech. It will be followed by a Q&A session, and of course with the invited keynote speaker. After the Q&A session, we'll move into the second portion of the event with a panel formed by four alumni who will be answering some of the questions that you all posed previously through YouTube, or also on the forms that when you registered to the event. So let's start with the very first section of today's webinar, and I'd like to invite here on the studio Mr. Daniel Koo, who helped me to coordinate the event today. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Dr. Diaz. Hi, my name is Daniel Koo. I'm one of the CI class of 2016 alumni ambassadors and a board member of the CI Alumni Association. I just wrapped up my undergraduate degree at USC last year, and I will be in the panel later in the second portion of today's event. I coordinated this webinar with Dr. Diaz, and it's my great pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Mr. Q Lee. Mr. Q Lee graduated from Seoul National University with a degree in physics and has been at Gamevil since its beginning in 2000. Mr. Lee has played a key role in the evolution of Korean mobile gaming, continuously introducing innovation to the world, and is part of the advisory board for the Game Developers Conference. Mr. Lee is a vice president of Gamevil, Com2us, and president of Gamevil, Com2us USA. Gamevil is one of the leading mobile gaming companies in the world, amassing over 500 million downloads and publishing hundreds of mobile games. Gamevil, Com2us USA is established in California, from where Mr. Lee will be speaking today. The company also operates in international offices in Germany, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, China, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Since its founding in the year of 2000, Gamevil has earned a reputation as one of the best companies in mobile game sector by crafting 10 award winners in a diverse portfolio of over 60 games. As a world-class leader in mobile game publishing, Gamevil continues to lead the sector with a commitment to establish mobile as a definitive mass-market entertainment platform of the world. There is no one better than Mr. Lee to talk about this, his success in mobile gaming and the new trends in the online game industry. Introducing Mr. Q Lee, please.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Q Lee. I'm president of Gamevil, Com2us USA. As Daniel mentioned, we're a mobile gaming company, and we started our business really early back in 1998. And we have popular IPs like Summoner's War on the App Store. If you're a baseball fan, we have a game called MLB 9 Innings and Perfect Inning. And I basically run the global operations for the company. I was trying to, as I was preparing this presentation file, I was trying to look back at what I've done in my career, and I'm getting a little older now, but I was just a high school student or a college student just like you 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe. And I really didn't know what to do about my future. And so the only goal that I had was to study more and just figure out, what I really wanted to do with my life. So, and after I graduated college, I was wondering what I was going to do, having plans to study abroad, maybe to get a master's degree. And I ran into our CEO, James Song, Byung-Jun Song, who's on the board of Chadwick, and he became my first boss. So I just joined the company, started programming there as a back-end engineer and a server programmer. And ever since, you know, the company has evolved so many times, and I just happened to stay here. I came out in 2006 to the US to open our US branch office, and I helped setting up the European office and also acquiring offices in Southeast Asia. So I've been playing a big part of the global expansion for the company. Yeah, so, but yeah, I just thought, you know, what could relate the best to all of the audience here, and I thought I should just talk about my past and what I did, and what type of experience I had, and what I see coming in the future as for the future engineers. So yeah, this next slide actually shows. This was, I couldn't really find the same model, but this was like a IBM XT8080, and this was my first computer. I didn't have color screens. I was fortunate to have a white screen instead of a green screen, and so I learned to program basics, and I also played a lot of games on it. That's where I really started getting into gaming. These were some of the first games that I played. This is a flight simulator game. You know, it really wasn't a game. It was more like a simulator, where we had tank simulators, and there was, you know, the games that were played on PC weren't like Nintendo games, but you know, I had a lot of fun, and I think I really grew my interest into programming while I was playing these type of games. You know. And after I studied really hard when I was in high school, and I think I did a pause in my computer gaming for a while, but after I got into college, I started playing games. This is Blizzard's Warcraft. I think everybody may know. It's the game before World of Warcraft, which is pretty popular these days. So this was Warcraft. I spent a lot of nights playing this, and we played a lot of Rainbow Six too. So back in the days, we would go after in college. We would go out and play StarCraft, and then if you like shooting games, you know, we played a lot of Rainbow Six. So when we were, when we were starting the company, I think there was a big boom, or a big startup scene in gaming. Companies like NCSoft and Nexon, they were established, and they were starting their first MMORPG games, and we really didn't know what to do, and we just started doing a lot of work for hire jobs. Started out with developing casual games like poker games, and there's Korean Ghost Stop games, you know, Othello games, Connect 4 type of games. You know, we built a lot of casual type of PC games. And while we were trying to catch up and build our company to a bigger company like NCSoft and Nexon at that days, you know, we thought, oh, they're so lucky that that they were born earlier when the PC gaming area started, and we couldn't start earlier because we were just younger, you know. But I think one of the fortunate things that happened was that there was these new devices called mobile devices. You know, this is a early Nokia device, and I don't know if some of you recognize the game here, but it's a game called Snake. So we were trying to cram so many things into these smaller screens. Like I still remember some of the screens were around 64 by 64 pixels. And imagine building an RPG game on these type of screens. You know, it was painful, but it was very rewarding. And you know, I think the business wasn't good, but we were just happy making a couple $1,000s here and there, and we were one of I would say, if anybody started developing mobile games in 1998, it was probably only us. Everybody else was doing nobody was developing for this platform at all. And I think all of the beginning companies started around 1998 or 1999. And we work with telecom communication companies like SK Telecom, KTF, and LG Telecom in Korea. So, but I think it was around 2004 or so, and our CEO, Mr. Song, who's on your board, he made this really interesting decision that we should just completely stop doing PC gaming development and totally focus on mobile gaming development. And he said, I remember him saying that he really wanted to be the best mobile gaming company in the world. And so I didn't, I was just an engineer back then too, and I really didn't know what about strategy that much. But I thought it was a cool idea that that we could focus on something new and be the best of it, rather than doing a catch-up game to all of the PC gaming companies back then. So, and when I first came out to the US, we were struggling for quite a long time because I just only had a business plan, and my job was to open. I moved by that time. I moved from doing coding day to day, and I moved over to the business side because I was probably the best English speaker at the company, and because I lived in Kansas for a while when I was a kid, and so when I first came out to the US, my job was to open business relationships with the carriers in the US, like Verizon, AT&T. It was called Singular back then, and so and I would go to Qualcomm, head down to San Diego, and talk to the platform team over there, and try to just put the games that we developed in Korea, put it onto the US phones, and distribute it in the US. I talked to more than like 15 different carriers, and I went into all of the suburban areas in the US. Like I went to back to Kansas to talk with Sprint, and so it was a hard time for us, and the business wasn't going well. We would be spending more than we were actually earning, and we had to downsize our complete company down to only myself, so we laid off all of the people that I had in the US, and then something magical came around. Steve, the person that you see, Steve Jobs, he just announced the iPhone, and he said, this is going to change the world, and we thought, oh, let's give it a shot. I think the product, the phone device looks cool. He says it's going to have apps, so we're going to be able to convert our J2ME or Brew C++ code onto this device. At first, they didn't announce apps, but after a year, they announced the capability of putting apps onto this device. So, and it was great. We were one of the first companies to launch our apps onto this device, and because we had already worked on a lot of mobile games on the feature phones, I think our apps had better performance than a lot of the other ones in the market. And we had an organized team developing games for this device. So some of our first hits called Zenonia and Baseball Superstars, they did very well on the App Store. It hit like #1 or #2 top grossing. And, so all of a sudden we switched to becoming a smartphone gaming company. So So, but one of the things that I think, like, if I look back at our success, I think one of the key trends that was happening was the mobile breakthrough, and the App Store actually did a lot of things. I mentioned that we were talking to all of the separate carriers around the world to get our games distributed. You know, Apple solved all of that, all of those problems for us. You know, they actually just let us upload the game to the store and then hit the distribute, and then you could check all the countries that you wanted to distribute, set a price point, and boom, it would go live. You know, it was like magic. You know, I think I think everybody who has a phone nowadays, just when they're accessing the App Store, it may all feel just so normal to you, but it was such a groundbreaking thing that completely changed the landscape in the tech industry and shifted all of the priority from PC focused things to mobile focused things, because everybody would have that in their hands. Another thing that also happened was, you know, you could have the app on your phone, but then you would have to have separate servers all around the world, and sometimes, you know, everybody who would want to develop an app for the App Store would have to sign contracts with individual co-location server hosting companies around the world, and also manage those yourself. And AWS also came around, and all of these cloud-based service companies came around and solved all of those issues for us. You know, I also, looking back, I think this was also another groundbreaking technology that really helped our success. If these things weren't here, we wouldn't be here. And these things actually, you know, the App Store, the mobile device, and the cloud-based infrastructure, it actually laid down the foundation to build multiple billion-dollar companies and like everyday usage companies, you know, like Uber. They disrupted the taxi industry. Netflix, they I don't know if you remember Blockbuster, but they made them go away. Spotify, all the MP3 players and all the CD players, they made them go away. All the photos that you used to take on your Kodak films, you know, they're gone by Instagram. The encyclopedias that you're watching, gone by the Wikipedia. And, you know, like even for language learning, you know, I'm a big fan of Duolingo, and I practice my Chinese every day here. But you know, there's so many groundbreaking technology that disruptions that happened across every single industry, just because of the wave of mobile and the App Store and these cloud services that were provided. So, you know, I'm a big fan of disrupt. You know, I don't know if I grew into this, but I feel like that's the main theme for any type of company that's growing these days. You know, there's tons of businesses around the world, but I think there's also tons of old businesses around the world, and you know, the businesses that were established before the internet was here, before the mobile devices were here, you know, they all needed to change. And, you know, these type of disruptions is continuously happening in this world. And I think as an engineer, this is such an exciting opportunity for everyone, you know. And I I'm going to introduce a couple of books here that I really enjoyed because looking back, I did a lot of work web surfing to learn about a lot of things, but sometimes it really lacks the depth, and sometimes it's much more better to pick up a book and read it. And so about disruption and the financial impact or the technology impact, how you disrupt, some of the best books that I read was one was The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, and the other is Technological Revolutions and Financial Capital. Both are great books. Highly recommend you to read if you like the theme of disruption. And this is like so cliche nowadays, but you really have to look at where the future is going, and don't just I think if you look at how we were successful, it really came from us making that critical decision of focusing on mobile so much earlier than everybody else. That gave us such a big advantage, and I think it's really important when you're building out your career or you're thinking about what you're going to do in the future. I think it's really important for you to think about where the world is heading. When unfortunately I don't think I studied that hard in college, because maybe I was burned out after studying too much in high school. But I did a lot of thinking, and I did a lot of traveling, and I talked with a lot of people, and although I accidentally ran into Gamevil and Com2us, I think a lot of those thoughts on where the industry is heading helped me decide, or help me form which direction I think was important for me to head to. And I think that's one of the most important things that you'll probably have to do, because you're in your teens and your 20s, and you have like 60 years ahead of you. Of course, you can jump from job to job or career to career, but usually most of the people who stick to one career, they're probably going to stick to that career for the rest of their life. So, and if you think about that, then you're thinking about, what am I going to do for the next 50 years? And if you think about what I'm going to do for the next 50 years, you don't do something that's in trend right now. You have to think about what's going to be in trend 10 years later, or what's going to be in trend 20 years later. And so I try to put look back and see, like, let's look at the 10. This is the left side is the top 10 biggest companies in the world in 2011. The right side is the top 10 market cap companies in the world in 2021. And if you look at all the left side ones, ExxonMobil, PetroChina, Petrobras, BHP, Billiton, Royal Dutch Shell, Chevron, they're all oil companies. The oil companies were dominating the world. And now if you look at the right side, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Tencent, Tesla, Alibaba, TSMC, they're number 1 to 9. They're all tech companies. They're all technology companies. The only non-technology is probably Berkshire Hathaway, financial company. And so I think there's never been a better time to be in the tech industry. And I think this is what I do for my stock investment, or when I think about where my kids are gonna go in the future. I buy some stocks for them here and there for their college tuition, and I think about, what's the stock that I want to buy and I don't want to sell for the next 10, 20 years. And if you buy stocks like that, I feel like you should build careers like that too, and you should think about what's a company or what's a career that I want to pursue that's going to be relevant and important in the next few decades. By the way, if you're very interested in how sometimes you learn more from looking back in the past, so if you're very interested in the oil industry, the prize, this is the best book on oil. It'll talk about, it'll start from the late 1800s where they started mining oil, and then and where Rockefeller dominates the American industry and so on. It's a great book. So I was trying to, so this leads me into the next things that I wanted to talk about was what would I do if I'm pursuing an engineer career? You know, I did gaming, but I think, you know, I think there's so many more awesome things to do these days, and I don't have the answer, but these are some of the trends that I'm seeing, and I think about, so if you think there was oil, and then if you think there was the internet, and then what's going to be the next internet? What's going to be the next mobile? What's going to be the next huge disruption? Are some of the things that I try to think about myself. And so one of the first thing that I feel like is going to be groundbreaking is artificial intelligence. You know, artificial intelligence. You probably saw AlphaGo and competing against Lee Sedol, and he was one of my favorite Go players when I was growing up. By the way, he was probably the youngest one back then. Now he's an older guy, but yeah. So this was pretty amazing and groundbreaking to me. I think this kind of showed some of the potential on like how artificial intelligence in the future can be better than human. If it can be as good as human, you know, it'll help our lives so much more. And there's like trillions of dollars of opportunity there. You know, we already are seeing some of this in our lives, you know, with the conversational computers like Amazon Alexa and Google Home. And I'm a big fan of Tesla and yeah, the full self-driving technology that they hopefully deliver soon. You know, I think automated driving. This is a big task that has to be done through artificial intelligence. And even like companies like TikTok, you know, you would ask yourselves why is TikTok better than Snapchat, for instance? Snapchat, they started even earlier, and but TikTok, you know, the biggest reason why the people in the industry say that TikTok beat companies like Snapchat was because of their recommendation engine, you know, and this recommendation engines, you know, these are all built through artificial intelligence. You know, when you're watching an Instagram feed, or when you're watching a lot of these social media, you know, all of these are done by recommendations, and all of the engines powering that is built through artificial intelligence. And so there's going to be more and more artificial intelligence that's floating around you like air. And I think if you can get to develop that, there's so many more applications that can be done in the future. If you want to be inspired by artificial intelligence, these are the only two. I've read a lot of books on artificial intelligence, but these two are the best. You know, the Singularity is Near and Super Intelligence. I think a lot of you might have already read it, but these are great books, and it gives you a good insight into where all of this is heading. The next big thing, big trend that I'm seeing is virtual worlds. So obviously there's a big virtual world of gaming. I won't sell that too much because I don't want to self-promote too much, but I think even beyond gaming, there's so much more to do. If you should try to go look up like NVIDIA's recent announcement about NVIDIA's Omniverse. It's great. You know, it's bringing work into real life work into through the virtual lenses, and yeah, I think with all of these great hardware companies and rendering happening, I think it's gonna the virtual world is gonna look like the real world in someday in the future. And I think like you watch the movies Matrix, and I don't think that's too far away. You know, you might start getting confused between the real world and the virtual world, not pretty soon. Another technology is AR, you know, and I think AR is going to be more and more applied. If you look at the Apple's announcements and Google's announcements, they're focusing, and even Facebook's announcement, they're focusing more and more on AR, augmented reality. And yeah, the Oculus 2 Quest was probably one of the first VR devices that started to get easy to work with and play around with. So you know it's easy when your kids can just put it on their heads and start playing with it. Before, you had to do tons of configurations, and the devices were bulky and so on. But now, after I played around with the Oculus Quest 2, I feel like, oh, this is the direction that it's heading, and I kind of see this evolving into a viable platform where a lot of people can create great apps for. So I think there's with a combination of all of these virtual worlds, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the future. Another thing is fintech. I talked about disrupting things, and I think one of the things that really hasn't happened yet is a big disruption in the financial industry. I think, you know, you looked at the top companies around the world, but finance companies are constantly up there. It's because, you know, they control the money, so they make a lot of the money too. And there's so much disruption that can happen. This is like I used to, because of COVID, I haven't been going to China in a while, but you know, if you go to China these days, if you don't, they won't even accept cash. You know, I was so surprised. You know, they won't accept my credit cards. They won't accept my cash. And so I asked them, how do I pay for this burger? You know, and I went to McDonald's, I think, and I couldn't even buy a burger because I didn't have WeChat Pay. But that's how common this is in countries like China, and I think it's going to continue to develop. Just because of COVID, I think everybody wants to do contactless payment, and yeah. So I think with Apple Pay, with Google Pay, with Venmo, and so on, I think there's going to be a lot of more opportunities too. Bitcoin's a big disruptor in the finance industry. I think there's tons of things happening. The price of Bitcoin has been growing significantly. It's a $1 trillion market. And NFTs, I'm not sure if some of you are aware of this, but there's a Top Shot app NFT, and so you could built on blockchain technology, so you can own digital things now. And if you are interested about Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think the two books that will get you started in the right place is probably the Bitcoin Standard and the Infinite Machine. The Bitcoin Standard really builds a philosophy for you, and the Infinite Machine, it talks about how the history of it and how everything got started with Ethereum. The last thing, the last field that I was very interested in was energy and space. So, yeah, solar and wind, clean energy. I think there's a lot of future into it. I think the technology is getting so much better around that, and the technology to preserve that energy is also getting so much better too. The lithium ion battery packs are getting so much more cheaper, and just like how the Tesla cars are getting more and more popular and the prices are going down, I think there's a bright future around now it's just cars, but there's going to be boats, and then there's going to be planes, and there's going to be a lot of other things to do too. So so a lot of the oil-based things will be replaced into clean energy, and I think there's going to be a lot of engineering work to be done in those fields. Yeah, and Starlink, I think they just deployed more today too, but SpaceX is doing an amazing job with exploring, making space sexy again. And I think, if I read any comic book that I read, at the end it goes to space, So and I think any worldly things that happen, if the world things are done, the next space is going to be outer space, and there's so much that you can do here. And every time they shoot up a rocket, I still check to see if everything's okay and everybody survived. But yeah, it seems like I'm feeling more and more comfortable watching those YouTube streams now. But I think there's tons of opportunity in space. I always had a passion for space. At first, before I decided to do my major in physics, I was actually considering a lot into doing aeronautics, but I ended up becoming a video game publisher. But yes, space is still on my mind, and I think it's become so much more exciting these days. So I asked myself, what would I do if I had to do it again? I think I would still have to think again. I think thinking ahead is very, very important, and also believing in that, building your own philosophy to believe in that is also very important. And then when it comes to execution, I think you just have to fail a lot. Blindly execute is what I felt apply proof force there after you have the philosophy built up. That's what I would do. And the reason why I think we're successful is because persistence. We're endurance riders, we're not speed riders, and life is a marathon. And if I'm thinking like that, I think all of the younger generations, you guys still have like 50, 100 years ahead of you, maybe, if you're able to extend your life. And I think persistence really, really does pay off. And lastly, but I think most important, I think there's never been a period that you could be more proud to be an engineer. Maybe I started off a little bit more nerdier, but like, I'm so proud to be an engineer, and I think that helped my career a lot. And yes, I feel like there's tons of opportunities, and everybody's going to be an engineer in some way in the future. So this is my presentation, and thank you very much for listening to it. I hope I kept my time. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, Mr. Lee. Of course, we're all very inspired. And those of us like me, who's not much knowledgeable about the field, I learned so much. So, and I started to get, myself interested in the gaming industry. So thank you for sharing your journey. And also, of course, especially, sharing the new trends and what may happen in the future. I think it's very, I think for all of us, either in the industry or not, to understand what's coming next. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there were a few questions that the audience has posed before. We don't have time for all of them, but I think at least one or two.
Sure.
So maybe there's one that I thought was interesting to ask you, and it's was sent to us this week. After all these years, what has changed in the gaming industry that you also had to adjust to stand out? And I think there's no better person who can share this, since you continue this success in, after 2 decades. So could you share a little bit what has changed and how you continue to be, in a way, a model in the industry?
I think back in the days, games were more like a product. So you would just buy it off the shelf, you play it and complete it after like 40 hours of gameplay or so, and then you'll move on to the next game. I think one of the biggest changes these days is games are now a service. It's like games are worlds. So when you buy a game, some of the games they've been lasting for more than 10 years. Our game Summoners War, we're just doing our 7-year anniversary for that game. So it's been live for 7 years, and we have a million players playing every day for that much amount of time. And for us, it's also important not only to deliver the game, but also deliver the world to them. How do we deliver the world to them? We could deliver it through the games, but also we also just announced a comic book. We can show different sides of the world through different type of mediums, and so we're going to announce another world that's based off of the same world, but in a different time frame. So if you think about like how Star Wars has approached you, they came to you as a toy, they came to you as a movie, and then you're watching some Netflix shows on it, and you fully get immersed into those worlds. I think that's one of the biggest changes as a game company. If you think in longer terms, building out the world, not just only focusing on a game, but building out a world and delivering that experience to the users in a lot of different ways is going to be more and more important in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the next one is also, since we're talking about the majors and engineering as a program, but also career, there was one question I thought was interesting. What was your first role in the company, in the industry, and how did it go? How was your experience, on the very first job you had within engineering?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I did some side jobs building websites. So I did some HTML programming, and because I did that when I first joined Gamevil, I did web program. I did JSP, ASP, PHP programming, and then after I did that, we needed more complicated things, so I started learning JavaScript, and then because I was doing the web programming, I had to move on to doing more database programming, game server programming. But Yeah, so that was my first job, and I was pretty much all self-taught. I was never good at it, but I think I at least delivered, maybe. but but then I kind of felt like I wanted to build the company more than building the programs, and I think that's when I moved more towards the business side within the company, the and decided to open the U.S. office.
All right. Thank you. So maybe one more question. Is that okay?
Sure. Yes.
All right. So the next question is very, I think, specific. But what has been the most successful game and for the longest in the market, and why has it been so successful in your opinion? So that is an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know the right answer for it. For our company, I already talked about Summoner's War. I think in Korea, there's a game called Lineage. They constantly launched new sequels: Lineage 1, Lineage 2, Lineage 3, and they were a world from the beginning. It's a MMORPG game, and then once the mobile came around, they launched the game again on mobile, so Lineage 1, 2, 3 on mobile, and they're doing so well. I think it's because they built the relationship with the users. I think that's what's most important. Even though we have all of these technologies around us, we have to utilize it to connect people. And if it's the same thing, we're using technology, but we're still selling something to somebody else. We're just connecting. The game is just connecting in between us. So I think having that great relationship, any business that you do, I think you have to have a great relationship with the customer. And I think that's what they did well. And I think, yeah, of course, you have to build a great app. But I think building that great relationship had made it last for almost 20 years.
All right. Thank you. There's a very personal question here.
Sure.
That the question goes, when did you realize you wanted to make games as a career? So when was that moment in your either college or before even that you felt this is going to be my career, I want to pursue this? And when did that happen? And if you can share that experience.
I think I don't know if I really wanted to make games as a career, but one of the things that struck me was after I graduated Seoul National University and we were doing the startup. I joined this startup that Mr. Song started. I felt like, and I looked at all the people around me. There were like 20, 30 engineers, all from Seoul National University, which is probably the top school in Korea. And I thought, if the group of people here can't do it, I'm not going to be able to succeed anywhere else. Is what I kind of told myself, and I said, I just dropped all of my opportunities to study abroad, and it was fun. We were coding hard and working hard during the daytime, and then at the nighttime we were playing hard and hanging out. It was like a big group of friends, just working together and having fun. We weren't even getting paid that well, but we were single, and we were young. We had a lot of energy. It was just fun doing that. So I think games as a career more grew on me because of the people around me. It wasn't really, oh, I want to do games, And if you have something like that, I think that's great. Unfortunately, I really didn't have something like that, but I know that I love technology, and I think I love building things and exploring things. So I think it worked out pretty well so far.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing again more details of your journey. That's very, very interesting. I think we are almost done with the time. I have to be very respectful and mindful that it's almost 1 a.m. over there. But if you can maybe have a final message to everyone who's either watching live or will be watching this this conversation, what would be then your final message, your final thoughts to future engineers or current alumni who are actually pursuing their degrees?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think yes, I think I mentioned it before, but I think one of the things that I really think is like thinking ahead and building that philosophy so that it can give you a long enough drive is really important, and you really need to be proud of yourselves. And I think there's so much opportunities, and if you look ahead, I mentioned that when I was looking back, I thought I'm unfortunate that I didn't get to do all of this when all of the PC gaming started. Maybe some of you are thinking, oh, the internet's already done, and maybe some of you are thinking like that, but I think it's just at the very beginning of everything amazing that's going to happen in the future. And yes, pursue your dreams, and life is short, and shorter than you think. And yes, I hope you enjoy enjoy the journey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. You can probably imagine how inspiring your words are to all of us. I think very rarely we get to meet people that started things in life, right, that initiated a project. So it's like being a visionary. So I really, really appreciate, and of course the time we've been preparing for this event, and being live with us at almost 1 a.m. over there. So we really, really, our deepest appreciation for your participation, sharing your knowledge, your experience. So I think it will be this very historical moment that our very first webinar has been absolutely marked by your inspiring, sharing, and your future vision of what may happen to the field. So thank you so much on behalf of everyone here at Chadwick International, the alumni, those who are watching, live and will be watching the video, our deepest appreciation. So thank you so much. I hope you have a good night, a good sleep over there, and hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so now we move on, and I'd like to now we move to the second portion of our event today, and I will be bringing up to the studio some of our, as I mentioned before, 4 of our wonderful CI alumni who will have either graduated or about to graduate from college, and some of them are actually starting their graduate school, so they will be sharing a little bit about that as well. Some of them are here in Korea, some are not, some are in the US. So let's start off. I will be probably bringing one by one to the studio, and they will be introducing themselves. As I would like, just if you could, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you can just share your name, of course we can read on the screens, but if you can just share your name, your graduating class here at CI, if you already graduated or not from college, and where you may be going next and what you're doing right now. So a little bit about yourself. So thank you again, Irene, Alex, Sanjin, and Danielle. So thank you for joining us today. Go ahead and The mic is all yours. Maybe Sangjin, you can start.
All right, I'll start. Yeah, my name is Sangjin. I graduated from Chadwick International in 2016. I have gotten a degree at UC Berkeley in electrical engineering computer science and am employed at a Silicon Valley startup called Com2us. So if you have any startup questions or questions about computer science, you can ask me.
Maybe Daniel?
Hi, I'm Daniel. I graduated CI at 2016. I graduated from USC Engineering last year. I majored in computer engineering, computer science. Right now, I'm in Korea doing my national service. But before, I worked at a startup as well. It was a augmented reality startup. So if you have any questions that way, you can ask me as well.
All right, thank you. Maybe Irene?
Hi, I'm also a UC Berkeley graduate. So from Chadwick, I graduated 2016, and I graduated from UC Berkeley last year. I was a stats major in undergrad, and currently I'm attending industrial engineering at Seoul National University, master's. It's my second semester now, so yeah, if you have questions regarding that, yeah.
All right, thank you. Alex, please.
So I graduated from Chadwick in 2017, and I am graduating from USC in about a month from now, I guess. And then I'm starting my PhD programming. So I studied chemical engineering for my undergraduate studies. And then I'm starting my PhD in chemical engineering at University of Pennsylvania in about 3 months.
All right, thank you. Thank you, all of you. Again, we have collected a lot of questions. We won't have time to cover them all. We want to make the second portion, maximum around 30 minutes. So I will just randomly pick a few of those questions, and I would like to address maybe the question to one of you. Please answer the question to the best of your knowledge. And then if anyone else wants to add on something, feel free to do so. So let's get started. The first question, I think it's an interesting one. What are you most proud of during your years in college pursuing your major? And if you have any regrets, a course you'd like to have perhaps taken, but you were not able to, or something else. If you, Sangjin, could you answer that question, please?
Sure. So the most proud thing I did during college is in my last semester of college, I decided I want to dabble into research because Berkeley happened to be a good research university. It would have been a shame if I didn't do it. So I asked the professor, hey, can I just, it's my last semester, can I do research? And I got into a team, worked under a graduate student, and it ended up being published in IEEE journal. So it wasn't expected, but it happened. And I'm really glad that I took the opportunity to just ask for the opportunity. The regrets I have is not doing that more. In hindsight's always 2020. I could have, I had more opportunities to try new things. I didn't because, coursework and other things. But now that I've graduated, all those random things you do in college, they do really matter, and they help you in the most unexpected way.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anything you are proud of, or something you may regret? Have you regretted?
I can contribute. I think one of the most proud achievement I had was maybe completing a project with a club that I joined at USC. The club was named Code the Change. So we would contact non-government NGOs and for nonprofit organizations, and we would build them different tools that they need, perhaps internally or externally, like their website or something they use for databases, things like that. And basically completing, just among students, completing those projects and contributing meaningfully, not just for corporate or for a job, but contributing your skills for a good cause. That felt really good. And I ended up really making a lot of good friends. So that's one of my proudest achievements. One of my regrets, I would say, it's not related to engineering, but I wish I did sports in college. or I guess kind of explore into different areas that that's not engineering, because I've been in 2 clubs that were engineering related, but none that was kind of in other fields. So I guess branching out more, and even research too. I guess I kind of regret not doing stuff that I didn't do, because there's so many opportunities in college.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. That is kind of an easy one. The question is, what is or what was your favorite class in your major, and why you like that class? Irene, would you like to answer that question? What was your favorite course, your favorite class?
Oh, sure. For me in undergrad, it was the introductory probability class. It was like the first operative. So, like the first class that you actually have to put a lot of work in. And I worked hard on it, and thankfully it was an interesting class. So that's actually the reason why I chose stats over math. It was my original. I intended to I intended to do a math major, but because of that class, I changed to a stats major, and yeah, it was just interesting because it was very theoretical, but it had a lot of applications that continued throughout the rest of my college years.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that had a favorite class? Sungjin, maybe?
Yeah, hands down, computer security. I've taken many courses back in Berkeley, but it's a different way of thought. Any other course, you would have a problem and you would solve it. In computer security, you would have a problem, you would solve it, and the problem evolves with your solution, and it doesn't work anymore. And you have to wonder, why didn't it work? What's the problem now? And trying to hit a moving target, it requires a different kind of thought that I really appreciated.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else want to answer that question, or shall we move on? All right, so there's a question here about double major. Let's see who can answer. The question is, would you recommend a double major? If so, which minor would you recommend? Can anyone answer that question? Has anyone done that?
So I didn't do a double major, but I did do a minor. I took a minor in cinematic arts because I was really interested into film and filmmaking. And USC happens to be one of the best at filmmaking, so I tried to take advantage of that. As opposed, I don't know, I guess I wanted to do a double major at first, but it definitely was difficult with an engineering major because it just has too many requirements. I would recommend, if you want to double major, do something that is similar to your major, because if it's branching off of your major or something in that field, you'll have a lot of classes that will overlap, and that is one of the best ways to get a double major. If you try to get 2 from 2 different departments, then you're going to have to do a lot more courses and maybe stay for another semester or 2, or even another year or 2. So with engineering, it's not too easy, I would say.
All right, thank you, Daniel. All right, there's one here, probably, again, could go to anyone. Overall, how would or will you rate your experiences studying in that major? I guess you're all, I hope you're all happy with the program you took. But if you are not, can anyone answer maybe one? Overall, how will you rate your experience? Alex?
I mean, I obviously like what I'm studying right now. That's why I'm going to get a PhD in what I'm studying right now. But I would say that it's definitely not the easiest thing you can do. It's tough. I still don't understand a lot of things that I learned in my classes before, and I still have lots of things that I want to learn. But chemical engineering is a tough thing to do, and I'm going to do more school because I really enjoy doing research. And you basically need to have that drive that you really not need to like what you're studying to get into engineering. I think all kind of engineering is very tough, and you would have to study a lot for it.
That's one question here that was asked, I believe today or yesterday, someone posted, and that is an interesting one. It's how hard are or were, if you already graduated, the math-related courses you were taking or took in college? How hard can math get in college? Can anyone answer that question? A volunteer, maybe?
I think I can also chime in for that too, because I studied, among us, I think I studied the most physics-related major. So the math-related courses I got to take up until, you know, the differential equations and stuff like that, but it doesn't end there. Most of my major chemical engineering courses, you need to have that knowledge. You need to know how to use differential equations and stuff like that to actually do any kind of sort of mathematical engineering type of questions there. So you need to have that knowledge, have that strong base for you to finish all 4 years of chemical engineering. And it just builds up on that.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else would like to add anything? Did you all take a math course related in college? I think you all had to, of course.
Yeah, I'd speak for UC Berkeley. So like the lower div classes, so like the basic multivariable calc / linear algebra classes that you would have to take as an engineer or math related major. I mean, not math related major, but like as an engineer major, it's tedious and you need to put in work. But like as long as you put in sufficient amount of work, I think it would be rewarding at the prerequisite level. Yeah. So not to scare you off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I feel like everyone would agree that it's really dependent on the professor. I don't know, like for me, I had two professors. One was relatively simple, but the other one was nearly impossible. So I don't know, that was my experience.
Okay, so there's one question here that is more related to finding jobs in your field. In your opinion, can students immediately, is it easy, maybe that's the question, to find jobs right after graduation? And I know this is perhaps not the right time to look for jobs anywhere in the world, but how easy, in your opinion, it is for those who are pursuing the degree to find a job, and after graduation, how that happens? If you can just share a little bit. I think it's a concern that everyone has in any major, in any field, but in your opinion, how concerned you are or were in the past regarding finding a job? Sungjin, maybe?
Sure. So I think it's not much of a problem. In fact, you don't even need to graduate. I have a good friend of mine who dropped out after second year to join a crypto startup. Now he's happily working for a promotion at Amazon. So, graduation doesn't even really matter. And plus, what most people do is they usually find an internship before you graduate, and you would start with the return offer. And then you look for, I guess, better jobs starting from that. So, is it really hard to find jobs? The better question to ask in computer science, at least, is it really hard to find internship, which transforms into jobs? And honestly, that part could be hard. When I was looking for my first internship, I was quite frustrated with how hard it seemed to be.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to add anything in terms of finding jobs, getting in the field after graduation?
Yeah, I could chime in. So I think most of my computer science or computer engineering related students around me, I don't think there was a single one who couldn't get a job. It was more like, what kind of startups you go into or what kind of companies you go into. But most of them were really successful. I would say within a year of graduation, all of my engineering friends got a job. That's one way to put it. I would say computer science was definitely, I wouldn't say easy, but if you put in the work, it's definitely possible to get a job. And for me, you know, I was searching at a lot of different places, but one ended up coming to me and then asking me if I want to be in their startup. So it all comes in really different shapes and forms, but I think it's not a big issue generally in engineering, in my opinion.
So there's a related question to that, and it's not a job, but getting internships. And I know some of you already shared you had that experience. So the question is, if engineering major or engineering courses will help them to find an internship program. Any specific recommendations? I think it's also asking how to find the right internship program or find the right opportunity and how to get ready for that experience. Could you share, those of you who had an internship program during the undergrad program? I think you all kind of did somehow, but maybe Daniel, you could share because you already shared a little bit.
Yeah, if I can start it off, I guess one thing that might help, like a specific recommendation, is kind of change your perspective. So my friend who got into Google after 2 Google internships, when he was applying for internships, he applied to like 100 positions and got back maybe 20 interviews and then finally got like 1 or 2 jobs, and one of them happened to be Google. So like I think in my first year I struggled because I only applied to like 5 or 10 positions, and then I was sad that no one got back to me. But sometimes the system is just not that good, and so you just need to have a lot of applications sent out in order to get any result back. So that's one perspective to put you in. And I would say any internship positions that you get, it always helps the next one to get a better one next time. So this means it's best if you start looking for internships after your first year. After your first year, you have the summer break. So if you can get an internship at that point, that's like really good, but it's not very common, I would say. Most of those positions can be unpaid. That's okay. But one thing to really remember is that those internships actually start in August and September. So as soon as you go into school, there will be kids looking for internships to get their first one after the first year, and it will happen really early. So it's just to keep in mind. And this is something that I didn't know, so I struggled with it. But hopefully, you know, people listening to this will not make the same mistake.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Anyone else in regards to internship? Any recommendation, any suggestion?
Just like to support Daniel's finding that you should apply to many jobs, because what happens is everybody ends up applying to hundreds of jobs and the company will pick people. Those who are really good will get several offers and turn down everything except one. And then every company will just keep going down the line. And the way to succeed in that kind of environment is for you yourself to also apply to as many jobs as possible. So definitely want to recommend that approach if you ever find yourself trying to look for an internship.
Thank you. All right. There's one question I thought was also interesting. It's more college life. And it goes like, if with so many student organizations on campus, there are tons of opportunities for students to get involved with on campus, right? So what clubs or any specific programs related to your major that you are or were part of that you'd like to maybe share or recommend? So more clubs on campus. Did you join any? Irene? I'm sure you did.
I may be a bit careful because I wasn't an engineering major back in undergrad, but like I was a stats major, so I joined a club called SUSA. It's like the Statistics Undergrad Student Association, and I joined the data consulting part of the club. So you work with organizations on a data set to reach their or like help help them with making decisions. So that was just a lot of coding / working in teams, and it was a fun experience for me.
Okay, thank you, Irene. Anyone else? Alex, did you join any club?
Not really. That's one of my gripes of undergraduate, being in my undergraduate years. I usually just sit in class, or I did a lot of research in for 2.5 years. So I was usually in lab or at home just chilling or working on my class. So I don't have much to share here, unfortunately.
Okay, does anyone else, Sungjin or Daniel?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I was in a club called Code the Change. It was really nice. I think it was one of the top clubs. In order to get in, we had to do a coding interview test, much like the ones that we do for companies. And they kind of do that so that we would have the level of professionalism that's required. And there are always one or two clubs that are really good and have really good connections in alumni. So I would recommend trying to join one of those. And yeah, that one was directly within my major, so it really made sense for me to join.
Do want to offer a little bit of a different way of thought. I didn't really do anything with clubs directly related to my major, but I did other things. Like one of the clubs I joined was a RC airplane design club where we make wooden airplane that's like 12 feet tall and it'll just go fly out. And it's nothing really that has to do with computer science, but what that ended up doing for me was it helped me immensely when I was applying for a startup that did autonomous flight. Because I knew all these little tidbits about airplanes, I ended up getting an offer from there just because I was able to have such an engaging conversation. And what I'm trying to get at here is, I think especially in software engineering, they're not just looking for coders. So companies are always trying to use software to disrupt a field. So if you have something that interests you, do things in that area. And then when you try to apply for a company that happens to align to whatever your passion was or whatever you did in college, it'll play to your great strength.
All right, thank you. There's one question here that I would like everyone to answer, and that's, I believe, this one. What has been the most? Sorry, this is not the one. Here it is. In which area of the industry, let's say, whatever that is that you are pursuing or will be pursuing in the future, do you hope to make a difference? And I think it relates back to our CI spirit of being innovators, on trying to make a change around us. So what would be, in whatever particular field you'd like to be in the future, you think you can contribute and make a difference? I would like to hear one by one your thoughts about that. Maybe Alex would like to start.
So I'm currently doing research for polymer membranes for SMR plants, which is steam methane reforming plants. So these are going to be used to make a clean hydrogen for alternative energy sources. So that's sort of the field that I want to get in for reactors and methods to make clean energy sources are different from the traditional fossil fuels. So I would like to make a change in that area, I guess.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's beautiful. Daniel?
I guess right now it's very popular, but machine learning and artificial intelligence is a very big field, as a growing field. And I think I definitely want to be a part of it. That, along with cloud and like the mobile app industry, I think those are really interesting. So I'm hoping to be in kind of the intersection of those things. So maybe software design with machine learning in mind, because machine learning can be making different operations very efficiently. I guess it's really open to a lot of different fields, and that's why I kind of want to go into that area right now.
Okay. Irene?
So coming from having a stats background and currently in an optimization lab in the IE department. I don't have like a set plan as of now, but I wish to make a contribution in the field of like data-driven optimization solutions in the real world, such as like time like subway scheduling or like scheduling problems are of my interest right now. So I hope that goes well with looking at the past data. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Irene. Sanjin?
Yeah, I'm personally gonna have to take a rain check on this question. The problem that I have right now is if you just look up and see all the startups working on disrupting whatever field, they're working on so many. I still haven't chosen exactly what field, but rest assured, I'm just trying to, at this point, work towards a point where when I find what I want to work at, I will be able to.
Thank you. All right. So I think we only have a few more minutes, but before we end the session today, this very first webinar, if each one of you could just share the final thoughts. You'll have about a minute or so to say what you feel that you've gained after the program you took. What is your vision of the future? Any final thoughts regarding engineering and the new trends and what you see that is happening in your field in the future? If you can, just one by one, we go around. Maybe starting with Daniel.
I guess my final message would be, as an engineer, always keep an open mind and the belief that you can figure it out. I think that was one of the most important things for me in my undergrad. So don't worry about your classes. Like, if you put enough time into it, you'll figure it out. And even in jobs, like when you go to like an industry or a company, they teach you most of the stuff that you will use in the future in that company. So even if you feel like you don't know a lot, that's perfectly normal, and it's normal to be constantly learning. And also, despite your engineering career, I think you should always be open to different options in your university. Like, do a minor or explore your other interests, because if you only go into engineering, you kind of lose the humanity that you like to feel sometimes, a little more color in your life. So I would definitely recommend those two things.
Thank you, Daniel. Alex, maybe?
One thing I would like to say is don't box yourself into engineering if you're studying engineering. Try out new things. Take classes that you would like to take. That will give you more vision to something of the real world, and you don't know where those things will take you. The paths they'll open. So try new things.
Thank you, Alex. Irene?
I think it just goes along the same line, but yeah, try a lot of different stuff. Me too. I also took a lot of CS class, like CS/data classes, econ, and business classes as well. And it all somehow like relates or comes together to your major or like to what you are more interested in. And also like try, if you have the opportunity to do so, do more like other activities such as sports or like social clubs too. They might help, or yeah, try out a lot of different stuff. That all helps sometimes.
Thank you, Irene. Sangjin, you were the last one.
Yeah. My 2 cents would be, yeah. So my 2 cents would be excited, stay excited, and don't ever let the coursework take that excitement away from you. The courses can sometimes beat you down, but from what I've learned, people like to be around those who are excited, and it'll help you out throughout everything that you do in life.
Good. All very insightful messages. So we're done pretty much. I would like to thank every single one of you who joined the panel. I want to really thank, of course, Mr. Lee, who was already almost 1:30 in the morning in California. He's probably watching us on YouTube. I want to bring back here to the studio Mr. Hill, who made, of course, delivered the opening remarks. I really want to thank every single one of you. And of course, on behalf of those who are watching online and those so many who will be watching the recording later, thank you with capital letters to all of you who participated today. We will, as I mentioned, this is the very first one of our webinar series. So the next one is happening at the end of next month. And the topic will be business administration. So we'll be, of course, promoting that event, and I hope you will join as well. So thank you again, Mr. Lee, who delivered the keynote speech, Irene Ha, Alex, Sungjin, and Danielle, and of course, Mr. Hill for joining us today. It is absolutely a great event. And again, thank you everyone who joined online and those who will be watching this recording later on. Thank you so much. Bye, Mr. Hill. Say goodbye, since you are here with us.
Oh yeah, well, no, thank you again to our alumni and Mr. Lee and Dr. Diaz. And again, this is just the first of many, and very much appreciate getting off to such a great start. Lots of great insights and a lot of inspiration and hope. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sungjin, Daniel, Alex, Irene. Hope to see you on campus one day soon. And for all the alumni who's watching, please come back when it's safe and visit us again. We're always open to welcome you here. And thank you, everyone who's watching online. Bye-bye. See you next month.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.